Those are tough numbers for a president. So let's bring in Democratic Congressman Jared Moskowitz. He's a freshman lawmaker representing Florida's 23rd congressional district. Congressman, thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
And I want to ask you this. As a freshman lawmaker, I know you have held political office in Florida, and you're no stranger to it. But you're going to walk in the chamber, across the street there for your first State of the Union address. You know, it's a pretty jaded town sometimes, pretty jaded country. How do you feel about it?
Well, I mean, I got to attend the State of the Union once as a student in the gallery, but now I get to attend on the floor. And so, look, it's still a humbling experience to walk in that building. It still is awe-inspiring to think, you know, this is where I work when I go on the floor and I vote, and Nancy Pelosi is just, you know, a bench away doing the same thing. And so, you know, that is still, I think, a lot of members up here, Democrats and Republicans, especially the new members, are still adjusting to the fact that, you know, they work in the people's house. They're going to be on the floor for the State of the Union. So it's an honor that, you know, the folks in my district sent me here.
Yeah, it's exciting. And President Biden adjusting, as I said, to the new reality. Republicans in charge. You're now a member of the minority. You come in as a member of the minority. What are you expecting to hear from President Biden that can make a difference with an audience, as our poll shows, that isn't entirely approving of the job he's doing, to say the least?
Well, I mean, look, I think the state of our union is strong. I mean, are there issues that can be addressed? Of course there are. I mean, I'm hoping to hear from the president about inflation. I think as you see the jobs numbers, the jobs reports getting better, I hope to hear that, you know, what are the plans to continue to bring inflation down? Obviously, as money becomes more expensive to borrow, that hurts, you know, regular American people, not just financial institutions. So I want to hear about that, you know, coming upon the 5-year anniversary at the shooting in my hometown in Parkland at Marjory Stoneman Douglas, my high school. I want to hear about, you know, gun violence prevention. And then, you know, my dad, who died of cancer just a year ago, I'd like to hear more about the cancer moonshot that Biden talked about when he ran for re-election. So I think the American people, you know, want to hear a lot. I think we have, you know, issues in Ukraine going on. They're going to want to hear an update on that. And obviously, you know, the horrible earthquake in Turkey. And so, you know, we should be helping them because, you know, when we've had these instances in this country, the world, you know, surrounds us.
Let me unpack that a little bit. You've said that recently normal seems to be coming back into American politics. Joe Biden is nothing if not normal as a politician, at least compared with recent presidents, I suppose. And how much of a difference does that make to the climate of what can be done? Used to be compromise was more or less normal. Passing laws was more or less normal. And that hasn't happened much recently. So do you get a sense that the Congress senses a changing American attitude about this place?
Yeah, I mean, look, you're hearing more talk about common ground and compromise, and look, we're going to have to do that to raise the debt ceiling so that this country doesn't default. So there is a moment that is going to happen. A lot of the freshman members are talking about that because I do think if they look at this last election and maybe even the last 2 elections, I think Americans have voted for normal. They saw what 4 years of President Trump looked like. I think they got exhausted with that, and you know, they elected Joe Biden, someone who's been here for several decades upon decades upon decades. And so I think the American people voted for normal in the last election. I think that's why you see a lot of the most extreme candidates losing, whether, you know, that's from the House, the Senate, even governor's elections. And so, look, I'm someone who's worked across the aisle on a bipartisan basis. That doesn't mean you give up your principles. You don't have to agree on everything. But, you know, we have to show the American people that we can still, like, go out to lunch, even though we don't agree.
Let's hope that happens. You mentioned you were a graduate of Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland. And gun control, gun safety, that is an issue that bedevils the Congress that you are now entering. Can you be optimistic about getting something done to protect our children? Your child was just a block or so away, huh?
Yeah, my kid was in a closet at a preschool around the corner from Douglas, and the teacher that put him there was Jen Guttenberg, Fred Guttenberg's wife. And so while she was protecting my 4-year-old, her daughter was killed. My 4-year-old is now 9. Her 14-year-old is 14 forever. And so, look, I'm optimistic. Washington did finally break the logjam. Last Congress, in 30 years, they finally passed a piece of legislation. I said that legislation was necessary but not sufficient. But listen, in Florida, after the shooting in my hometown, we raised the age to 21 to buy any gun. We instituted red flag laws, which have been used 9,000 times since we put them there. That was passed by a completely Republican House, Republican Senate, and Rick Scott signed that bill. Not one Republican lost their re-election because of that. And so at the end of the day, what I want to bring the message here is we can work together. We can make sure we protect the Second Amendment, but we can also find common sense solutions to keep guns out of the hands of people who shouldn't have them.
Let's talk about Florida more broadly. President Biden going to Tampa, talk about Social Security and what he believes the Republicans' plans are on that and other issues. What does Biden need to do to turn around what is kind of a red tide in Florida, right? For the first time in decades, Democrats hold all the statewide offices. What do you think?
Well, look, I mean, Democrats right now have a really uphill battle in Florida.
How would change?
Well, I mean, listen, Governor DeSantis won his reelection by 19 points, right? That is a mandate. And so, look, the Democratic Party right now is on the endangered species list in Florida. And so, look, we need the president's help. It's going to take, several years to rebuild the party. We got to register voters. We got to figure out how to communicate with them correctly. I mean, what I like to tell Democrats is we may not like what Governor DeSantis is doing policy-wise, but what he's selling, people are buying, and that's why he won by 19 points.
He's a powerful politician, and you will be too, I'm sure. Congressman Jared Moskowitz, thanks very much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.